an Adams family MPU and driver board, and we have a credit dot there because I don't have it in the real game. But this is the gold edition, and all of the high scores have been reset, of course, because I have installed an NV RAM in this gold edition. And this MPU had some corrosion in it. You can see it U16 in the center of the image. And then it corroded several of the parts in the switch matrix. And then I had to take each of these headers off on the bottom to ensure there was no corrosion under there. And it turns out there was corrosion under J212 and J206. So I fixed all that. And then when I began to test the MPU, I found out that somebody had reflowed the pins on the back of this header, J211 I think it is, the ribbon, and that not only didn't fix what they were going after, but it also prevented one of the data signals from getting to the driver board, which would cause solenoids 16, 8, and the lower lamp matrix row to lock on. That makes sense, the signal wasn't getting there. The driver board also had corrosion. C2 had leaked and destroyed the 7 components plus the LM339 to the left of it. So I removed all those, sanded to bare copper, conformal coated. I had to lift the fuse block off the playfield also. So I did all that. And then in the end, there was also a fractured trace that goes to U1 and the rest of these LS374s. It is the blanking signal. And it comes from pin 31 on the ribbon to pin 1 of all those LS374s. And the trace was fractured. I have tack soldered a thin wire to the top of that trace. I had that option versus running a jumper all the way from the pin 31 on the header to the first pin 1 at U1. And I just chose to tack solder it on there. Also, I've replaced C5, C2, of course, which was leaking, and C4. Somebody asked me the other day, why am I using an axial cap there when the original was, why am I using a radial when the original was an axial? And it's just because axial caps are going obsolete, and I'll use a radial whenever I can use one and make it look good. I've also replaced the power and GI headers all the way around on this board. And you'll note that some components are missing here. Those support the line level or line voltage indicator LEDs, these two. They are meaningless, so there is no point in repopulating those components. The client also had a digital voltmeter. This is one of those inexpensive Chinese ones, I'll say, that you can get off of eBay. And I use them myself. You can see his meter is saying 4.98 and mine says 4.93. That could be the difference between the connectors or the voltage drop across the connector. It's more likely that these meters just aren't that precise. They're good enough for a gouge at it, let's say. So let's put it into test. We're going to get some errors because, of course, optos aren't connected, so I'm just going to skip past that. Oops. No, I did that right. Didn't do that right. We can do switch edges. So I'm going to walk through the diagonal. I'm going to turn, no, I'm not. I'm going to walk through the diagonal of the switch matrix, showing that all the rows and columns are in fact working. And then let's go to solenoid test and get it into run mode, so it'll do all of them. And I've already done this with the WPC test ROM, so I know that all these solenoid circuits are working. Excellent. So let's go to GI. This is the first time that I noticed that the blanking signal wasn't getting theirs because the GI just stayed on all the time. Usually that's a different problem, but this time it just wasn't controlling the 374s correctly. Looking good. Oh, I meant to do lamps and flashers at the same time. One of the odd things about WPC lamps and flashers test is it drives the flashers in reverse order. And at first I thought it was an optical illusion, one of those things where you see either a dog or a cat, let's say, but I really think it's driving it backwards. And when you use the test ROM, it in fact starts over here and then goes backwards. So those are all working correctly. And that is it. We are good to go. I want to thank you for sending this in, and we'll get it back in the mail to you.